Hey everybody, it's Jason from Ronin Bodyboards. Hey everybody, it's Jason from Ronin Bodyboards, doing another Boog Chat. So looks like got one person here. That's cool. Maybe we'll get a few more here in a few minutes. Been surfing a lot lately. Hey Nick, I figured it was probably you there already. You're usually the early arriver. Yeah, I've been surfing my brains out, building boards too. If you guys have been following on the Instagram, I've been pumping them out. These last few days I've just been trying to at least get a board done a day. Yeah, so it's kind of been my goal, is just get one done a day these days. I just started a batch of 4, but I'm just doing them one at a time because it's really fun just to kind of crank through one in a day instead of getting bogged down doing repetitive steps and stuff. I just think it's kind of more fun for me just to do all the steps within a day and then get that board done and move on to the next board instead of spending my time doing 10 of the exact same things, or not the exact same thing, because all my boards are custom. Everyone's different. So really that's what it gets a little overwhelming, all the details, when I do like a 10 board batch and every board is completely different. So I find it's maybe a little bit easier for me just to go in and crank one board out so I can really stay focused on just that board instead of hopping board to board in a batch. So I'm going to stay on that program for a little while and just try and do one a day. I'll sand a bunch of cores, in the batch all at one time, but then I'll just pull out one core and just that board. That's how I'm going to go back to doing those. I just find I make less mistakes that way. Hey, if anybody's got any questions or comments, throw them in the chat window or down in the comments if you're watching the replay. You guys anybody can always comment, and I'll try to do my best to answer any questions. So yeah, let's see. So I guess we can get into some board stuff. Shoot, I've been working on this one the last couple days, or just actually started it yesterday, kind of finished it today. It's asymmetrical DK, double crescent on the bottom, but it kind of fades to like a full crescent across the top. It's got raised rails and got a pretty interesting channel design on this. It's got like outside channels that are nice and deep, but then there's like a double that are cut. It's like a double concave, but then I just took and cut these outside channels into that double concave, so they go even a little bit deeper than just the normal concave that would happen if you just went all the way through. It's kind of interesting channel idea, so I was like, yeah, why not? This one's crazy too because it's asymmetrical, so you got I think it's 41 to 40 on one side and 42.5 on the other, so it's 1.5 inches offset from side to side. That's you can kind of see it there. It's got raised rails too. Yeah. Also, what's really cool about this is each side, one side, I don't know, you can kind of see that one side's 50-50 and the other side's 60-40. So that's interesting. I've never really built a board. It also has rounded. When I say rounded to sharp channel rails, it's rounded up through here, and the rail point gets real sharp through the back part of the board. So, and also channels out. So rounded to sharp channel rails. That's what's on this board. But one side's 60-40, the other side's 50-50, which is kind of an interesting concept. I've never really built a board that had different rail ratios on each side, but it's asymmetrical. You're riding the board differently. So the guy on a Nat on Oahu, he wanted to experiment with the idea, and I said, why not? Let's do it. So this one will be up on the website or, on social media tomorrow. So let's see, we've got 2 people here. Maybe I'll get into some my personal boards. If you've been following along through all the other Boog Chats, I've been pulling out, and I've been kind of doing them all in chronological order of when I got them, and the order of the boards and how I wrote them, and then the evolution. It gets into all the evolution of all the getting from my original clip crescent standard channel hex to where we're at now. So, like I said, last time I think we left off with my very last Toobs board that I ever made, which is pretty awesome board, man. It's still unplugged, never ridden. I don't even think this. Yeah, it does have slick mesh. So it has. I'm starting to use mesh. I wasn't using a lot of mesh on my boards previously too. So like the last few, maybe like the last 6 months to a year, I was able to start doing mesh on Toobs boards. So this one's a tri-channel, 3 scallop. No channel rails on this though. But so this is the last Toobs board I ever built, and I really just love this board. I still think it's an amazing board. I've never plugged it, never ridden it. I just wanted to keep it mint because it's kind of sentimental to me because it's my last Toobs board that I ever made. So anyway, I loved this board so much that I was like, okay, you know, and I was kind of bummed because when I built this, I really needed a new board. The one previously was starting to get a little bit tired, and so I really needed a new board. But then some stuff went down at Toobs, and I wasn't going to be able to make boards there anymore. You know, so I really wanted another board, and I had to do some soul searching after that happened because I really just I fell in love with shaping, doing the Toobs custom stuff that I got to do the last few years I was there, and so I mean I knew I wanted to keep making boards, and if I wasn't gonna be able to do it under the Toobs the label, I was gonna continue to make boards somehow, some way. So for the first 5 Ronin, then I had like I said, did some soul searching. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to dive in. I'm going to create my own brand because I just felt that I had the personal need for custom boards, and I knew there was other people out there that also had the same need. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to just dive into this thing and put everything I got in, financially and attention and just everything I had, I put into Ronin in the early days, because I was still doing some architecture and woodworking projects, but, started shifting gears. I had a little income at the time, so I really just dumped it all into the business to get it up and running, while building all the machines. So anyway, but I in the early days, I didn't really know if I wanted to have my own shop or try to work something out with the Toobs guys, because even though they weren't going to be boards in the factory or at the Toobs factory anymore, they had all these materials were still there because I knew what was in there. I knew what the materials were in the shop there, and all the equipment and everything that was there. It was a fully functional bodyboarding building factory. So, and I knew all the machines. I'd been working on them forever. I was like, so I went to him and I asked him. I said, can I make, I want to start my own brand of boards. Is there a way we can work out where maybe I can buy some materials from you guys and use the machines to start making some of the early boards for Ronin? And so they said yes, and so like the first 5 Ronin boards were all made in the Toobs factory, and then so in that first 5 boards, obviously I have Ronin number 1. This is Ronin number 1. It was made in the Toobs factory, and you can go back and research it all, but basically this is darn near the exact same specs as the last Toobs board I just showed you, because it's I just love that board. It came out so clean that I was like, okay, well, I gotta, I want to rebuild that board, but I want to make it a Ronin board. So you can see there's, and I got Buzz to make me the original triangle stamp, and then this Ronin stamp here you see on board a lot of the boards. But those are the first 2 Ronin stamps that were made, and that's all the only 2 stamps I had for a very long time in the early boards. I did have my JB stamp because he had made me this even when I was still making the Toobs boards. I think there might even be a few Toobs boards that have the stamp on it too, but not very many. So anyway, yeah, this is Ronin number 1. It's pretty cool. I rode the heck out of this board. It made it at least one trip to Oahu, and I remember riding it around Diamond Head and Ala Moana and a few spots where this thing was at, and obviously tons of spots around here. But I rode the heck out of this board, man. You can see that I always disintegrate this rail too from my leashes, so it actually does have a little bit of rail damage over on the rail here. But it's a solid board, like I say, because it was made at the Toobs factory, and there, I was so dialed in on the machines there. Hey, it's good to see a couple more people are here. So if anybody's got any questions, chuck them into the chat window, and I'll answer them. So like I said, this is Ronin number 1. Slick mesh. This one's probably just a single stringer. Once I started using the meshes, I got away from the V stringers. I had like a lot of my mesh, the boards that didn't have mesh. Once I started putting mesh in the boards, it was definitely a little bit stiffer, so I didn't need the whole double V stringers in the boards, and I went back to a single stringer. So the last few Toobs boards with slick mesh all have just single stringer mesh, and that's still kind of what I ride today. It's the same stringer, same meshes that I'm using even today on all the Ronin boards. So anyway, yeah, this one's pretty cool. It's definitely, it's Ronin number 1, so it'll be around. I'll probably die with this board. It's not one that I think I would ever sell or get rid of just because of, it's the very first one. And it was still made at the Toobs factory. So, I'm up to number 5. Jim Ledbetter has number 3. He does one that does all my screen printing. He did the screen printing on this sweater too. Like, Let's get the triangle here. These are for sale on the website too. But yeah, so Jim has number 3. My a DK guy that I used to ride with a lot around. He was in the area here. A guy named Dave. I made a couple Hawaii trips with him, and we used to ride around here all the time. But he was one of the first, kind of one of my test pilots of some of the early boards, just because he loved the DK a lot, and he liked the design they're doing. You can go back and look at some of his boards. They're the first few that are posted on social media are all there was a few. 2 of them were his. So he might have had 2 and 3. No, he had 2 and 4 or something. And then 5, 5 I actually sold. So there's a board collector, one of the vintage bodyboard guys, I think has number 5 somewhere in Southern California or New Mexico or someplace the guy lives. He's in the military, I believe. But yeah, so he has number 5. And then after I got to 5, I was kind of like, okay, working in the tube shop after everything went down there, I was like, okay, having to go back in there and even build the Ronin boards. It was weird. It was uncomfortable for everybody. So I just made the decision from that point on. I was gonna take a step back and slow down and just start building my shop here and building all machines for myself and making my own shop. So there was a huge gap in time from number 5 to until I had been running at my house here, and then started being able to build boards again. So from 5, like 6, 7, 8, 9, there, I didn't have any of those boards. I think I got to number 12 until I made myself another board. So I'd been riding number 1 there for, gosh, it must have been at least a year. I rode number 1. That was the only board I was riding. Yeah, David, you have number 11. That was an early one too. So that was even before. This is number 12 right here. So number 12 was the next one that I built in the line. It's also three channel. Tri-channel, tri-scallop. David, your board's a V-tail, but yeah, that I was just experimenting and getting back into some of the things that I had built in the Toobs days and trying to dial my machines in through these first few boards. What's cool about this board though is it has the original black PP core that some of the very first shipments of core I ever got was this. I got this really strange black PP. It's not like the other black PP I've made in the past, through the, I guess it was probably about 40, then the 40s or something to a couple hundred. I had black or white PP core. Now I'm pretty much only using white. I can get the black stuff. It's just more expensive, and I don't really think it's really all that much different. So I just stick with the white these days. So anyway, this one has this black PP core, and then I might be able to break out a piece of it, something for it, and show you how it compares to the other stuff. It was like more rubbery. It had like more of a rubbery compound. I really think it's some of the best core I've ever used. So this board has that core. This board's just a little bit smaller though. I don't know, dimensionally it came out just a little bit narrower than the last few were, number 1, obviously, but even before then, it just came out a little bit narrow and small. I love the board. I rode the heck out of this one too. You can see, it's got a little bit of elbow creasing in it, but it's still in fairly good shape. The rail's not too beat up from leashes. This is still, number 12 is still in a pretty good shape, but yeah. So this one's single stringer. That's like mesh, obviously. Almost everything from here on out, my personal boards are going to be single stringer with mesh. And, obviously my Tombstone has we'll get into my Tombstone when we get to the number. But so, yeah, JK, I love sharing all the history of the stuff and the evolution of things. So, so from 12, David has number 13, 14. I'm not really sure 14. Number 13. So the next one I have it would be 13. Yeah. So this is 13. So right after I did the 3-channel design, I was, obviously I'd seen a lot of it's right around the time that Mez was just releasing all the quad designs, and I'd done a bunch of 3-channel boards, tri-channel boards, even on some of the DK boards for Dave and my DK buddy Dave, not you Dave, David. So there was a few tri-channels out there, and I might have made a quad early on some of those early boards. I'm having a hard time remembering all those. It had been so long ago. But everything's documented on social media, which is really cool. and the website. The website has a what's your board number page, and you can go in there. And I think I upload maybe 50 board batches into that thing. So I build 50 boards and I'll upload a bunch of photos and on the website. But there's a page on the website that has most of the boards up to maybe 300 or 400 right now. So anyway, so there was a bunch of quads that I'd seen, and I'd been building 3 channels. So I was like, okay, well they're building 4 channels. I'm like, there's no reason for me to build a 4 channel. And then I was like, well, I could probably do a 5 channel, but let's screw that. Why don't we do even one more? And then why don't I try a 6 channel? So that's kind of what this one is. And this is also made out of that same black PP core. So this is number 13 right after the last one. The last one was 12. This is number 13. So this board is this just has a full crescent though. I didn't really want to get into it, and I hadn't the whole 3 to 6 scallop tail yet. I did a bunch of 3 scallops, but then I had this is the first, like I said, this is the very first 6 channel board probably ever made in the world. It's number 13, full crescent, single stringer, basically all the specs. This one is probably dimensionally a little closer to Ronin number 1 versus number 12. Number 12, like I said, came out a little bit narrow. But this one's probably a little closer to the dimension. So I rode the heck out of this board. It's you can see it's even a little bit rockered now, and it has some elbow creases. But like I said, it's the very first 6 channel board. I still ride it I pull it out and ride it every once in a while. But I hadn't really developed. So what I did though is when I cut the full crescent through this, I looked down here and it kind of opened my eyes about, like, even though I just cut it at an angle, I just cut the normal tail angle, then that cut through the 6 channels. It almost created like a little bit of a 6 scallop type of thing that happened by cutting an angle through the channels. So once I saw this, then I was like, oh, okay. So what happens if I just start taking these and start scooping out in between every single one of these channels? So that's when the light bulb went on. Was right about this board. Was like, man, I could probably take and do a 6 scallop across this, and then we'll maybe see that on some of the other boards, how it developed into going from a 3, which is kind of how the deck contours come out. And then now these days I'm doing all the 3 to 6s. So I put a lot of those on my personal boards now. I really think it's a great tail. But like I said, this is early on, but even before I had the 3 to 6 tail. But I really like a full crescent tail, man. The full crescent 6 channel. This is a really good setup as far as channel tracking and how the tail corners will bite into a wave. It really is a good tail and channel setup. Although I think the scallop tail versions are even better. But so this is early on, so like I said, it was pretty cool to so that maybe those are the next 3 boards that I Ronins and we'll get into some of the 20s. I think I have a couple of the boards in the 20s as well. So a lot of these early boards, I wasn't even really selling customs yet. I was really just building boards for me and my friends and trying to dial in the machines. So that I really didn't want to start selling boards to customers until I really got the quality kind of back up to the quality that I was making at Toobs before I left. You got to have a few errors, and there's a learning curve with all these machines because they're all different than the ones that even though they're kind of designed the same, my laminators designed the same. It's still a different machine. So how fast, how hot, there's all these things you got to kind of fine tune and dial in all these speeds and temperatures on the machines before I wanted to get into selling anything to anybody. So yeah, so we'll probably just leave my personal boards off for there. So it looks like JK's got a question here. What core would you think works best in cold water? 40 to 48 for a river mouth that has a lot of cold and fresh water mixing. So I obviously there, when you start getting super cold, in the 40s for sure. I ride in 50 degree water sometimes, not really in the 40s. 40s is pretty darn cold. So obviously I don't really have a lot of experience personally in those types of temperatures, but all I do is make PP core boards. I really do think it's the best core. It's so versatile. Like it works great in warmer waters and it works great in colder waters. I ride in 50 degree waters around here all the time. It just depends on the reinforcement that you put in it. Like when you are in colder water, you obviously need less reinforcement. So really just a single stringer and mesh if you want to do it. If you want, just depends on how you like your flex. But I really think just going a single stringer and some polypropylene would work fine, and even in the 40 degree temperatures. It just depends on how you want your board to flex. And that's all personal preference. I mean, so, and that's all, everybody's got a different needs, so how I like my board to flex might be different than how you like your board to flex. So what's the best core is all relative to how you want your board to flex and ride. So it gets back to what works best for you and how you want your board to ride. So that they get, you'd have to dial in the reinforcement and the meshes and things like that for how you want the temperature and how you want your board to flex. So what number is it when I decided, what, Dave? David, what? Not sure what that was, but yeah, just what number is it when you decided you're ready? When I'm ready for what? I'm sorry, I don't really understand. So another thing I've done over the last couple of years is well, shoot, Dave. When was I going to start taking custom orders is probably what you're going to ask. Gosh, like I said, I took that number one. I took to Oahu on one of my trips, and I was out surfing off a Diamond Head, and I met a kid named Kevin Jang out there surfing off a Diamond Head in the reefs out there. And I know Kevin's kind of around the Waikiki and Honolulu area and stuff a lot too. I think he did some surf instructing and stuff. He's around in the area still there. He has quite a few of my boards, but when I was out there surfing around, I showed him number one, and he was just like, "No way!" He's like, "I can't believe this." Like, as soon as you want to start taking orders, he's like, "I want to be the very first person to order." And oddly enough, he is. He into the late 20s or something, and I think that's when he hit me up, and he's like, "Hey man, are you gonna start taking orders now? I've seen you making all these boards." Well, okay, you wanted to be the first one to get a true order from me, so and I really have, and he's a great guy. In fact, he's even come through here in Morro Bay, and I've surfed with him out at the Rock here in Morro Bay. I didn't get to hook up with him this last time trip to Oahu, but I really want to spend some time over in the town side, maybe this year if I get to Hawaii. I keep on, I tend to get out to the North Shore, and I don't really come back into town at all. I just really love being away from the city, but I know there's a lot of people that hang out around the Walls area that I would really like to meet and say hello to. So I really got to maybe just give one day and hang out there in town one day. This coming winter trip, if I. So yeah, Kevin's board's number 34. That's the number 34 is the very first custom order board that I made that I got paid for by a customer, and that was for Kevin on Oahu. So for first custom that I made, even though I'd made a few boards for my friends and stuff that maybe paid me for materials and whatnot, but I really wasn't charging a lot of money for those early boards for my friends. I just really wanted to get in and dial the machines in. Now, something else I like to do, I've done it probably since, I think it was around the start of COVID, when the lockdown hit in COVID. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to travel. That was the only year I'd also missed not going to Hawaii in maybe like the last 10 years. It was the year that the lockdown was. We couldn't even go. Nobody could travel, and you had to stay home. So I thought, what the heck, that year started. It was towards the end of the year, and when things started locking down, I knew I wasn't going to be able to go to Hawaii. So I was like, I knew I was going to probably just stay home and surf my brains out. That's all I was going to do. So I was thought, man, why would it be kind of fun to track? I've never done that in all the years I've been, surfing. And I don't know how many times I go in a year or whatever. And previously, so I thought it'd be kind of fun just to I have just simple calendars that my I live in San Luis Obispo County, and they have these emergency calendars they send you here. So. In the mail, and they're free. They're just free, just traditional calendar. What I did was I just started marking in here on the calendar. You can see this one. It has scribbles all over it. These are all my surf sessions. So every surf session I would just go in. If I went out, I just started documenting it, and I've done it every time since the beginning of 2020. I think was the very first year I started doing it. So from 2020, I have 2021 and 2022 now that I have calendars like this with every single surf session. So what I did was I write down the location, the board number I rode, what board I rode, because I could just put the number down, what the size was, and then waves, and then how long I stayed out. So it's pretty cool to go back, and you just and then at the end of each month, I kind of subtotal up into the bottom corner about how many sessions I had. and then how many hours I was in the water. Sometimes I'll summarize what different boards I rode too. And it's kind of fun to see how many sessions you had in a year. Like at the end of the year, you can kind of total it all up and see how many times did I go? How many sessions did I have this year? And and then the real shocker one is how many hours did I spend in the water? That's another one that I really like and enjoy looking at the end of the year, because it'll blow your mind how many hours you spend in the water. I'm 30 to 40 hours on some of these easily on the bigger months. I'm definitely in the water for 30 to 40 hours a month. So anyway, it's a lot of fun to go. I really encourage people to kind of do this, man. If you got, or I have thought it might be kind of cool if somebody out there developed a cool little app that was all map based, that you could go in and click and have like a boogie log or a surf log or something like that, with the log in the surf location that you surfed at, and then and it would automatically maybe link to some sizes, so you wouldn't have to input everything. I think it'd be kind of a cool little app for your phone or something, that if somebody, some tech person out there can send me some royalties on this idea. But I think it'd be kind of a cool app for your phone to have, like a little surf log app for your phone, and then you could document it, and then it would obviously total up everything for you, so you don't have to do it old school with the pencil and paper like the way that I do it. And I've tried to set up some Excel spreadsheets to kind of help me, but I find that it's just, you just go through and do it by hand. It's not really that hard. You can kind of total things up month to month and then all the way through the end of the year. But I really encourage people to do that. It's kind of fun to go back and look at your sessions throughout the year and see how many times you went. I think in my COVID year, when like I said, I couldn't go anywhere, I think I was in the 250 sessions or something I think I had that year, because I couldn't travel at all. So I just stayed home that whole year. And like I said, there wasn't anything to do except for go to the grocery store and make boards and surf. So that's all I did. That's all I still do, really. But I really put some. It was a good year for surf too. There was a lot of good, even summer days. There wasn't a lot of too many down days throughout the summer. This past summer this year was kind of, Surfline with iPhone and watch. Yeah, man, there might be some kind of thing out there that might already kind of do. That could help the technology. There's got to be some technology that you can input into this app. That would be kind of a cool little app. Like I said, if you could link it into a watch, maybe even you could, if you got an Apple Watch that tracked your distance and did some other things like that, that might be kind of fun to kind of see, how far you surfed and how long you surfed. If it could be off of a watch or something that linked to your, and imagine if it linked to Surfline conditions, so all the conditions would just be downloaded into the app too. It'd be kind of fun to kind of develop something like that. Might be something there. But anyway, I think that the Boog Log is pretty cool. Dawn Patrol app. Oh wow, I haven't heard of that one. I might have to check it out. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if somebody out there had something similar to this already. I think it'd be kind of a fun thing for your phone to kind of do it all digitally instead of doing it all analog like that. So like I said, I'd mentioned that I'm probably thinking about going to I've been to Hawaii quite a bit, but I missed the one COVID year, but I've gone every other year. I went twice last year. I went to Maui and Oahu last year, and I really would like to do the same this year. And over the last few years since I started Ronin, I thought, man, why not help some people out? And I know a lot of people are kind of familiar with this thing, is that I put it out there on social media that I'm coming to the islands, and I have two big board bags that I can put. One board bag I can put 4 boards in, the other one I can put 3. So what I like to do is I put it out on social media that, I'll if you want to place an order for a custom board and I'm coming and I can just throw the board in the bag and bring it with me, and it saves all the shipping costs. It cost me $35 to check the bag. So versus, it could cost $100 to ship a board priority mail to the island. So it really can save a lot of money on your board order. Like I said, I have limited space. So I obviously need my board. I have room for 7 boards, and I take one board for me, and then there's usually 6 that I usually bring with me for the mule program. I call it the board mule. Because I kind of, we all know what the drug mules are. People shoving drugs up places and jumping on a plane to go somewhere. So that's kind of how I feel. I'm just a board mule. I'm just, pack the boards up on my back, and I'm going to trek them over to the islands. And it's really cool. I've met a lot of cool people doing this too over the years. It's how I met Rio. Rio was one of the first people I did this for. I met him this way too, and now I'm lucky enough that he lets me stay with his family on Oahu, and I'm super grateful for that opportunity. Yeah. So I mean, I met a lot of cool people doing this. I've built. I think like the last 3 or 4 trips, 5 trips I've done to the islands, I've just brought boards with me like this. And then what's good, it's really cool because I get to meet people, and sometimes I'll even get out to get some people at the end, and everybody's stoked to meet me, and I'm stoked to meet them. It's just a great scenario to, it helps me pay for my trip, and I write the trip off of my taxes because I'm delivering boards and I'm doing business too, so that really helps a little bit on the taxes too. You can write a part of a trip off to Hawaii, then why not? Off your taxes. I'm winning the way I look at it. So I get to come over and test boards, deliver boards, and hang out and meet people. It's really, really one of the cool things about this business that I've never really thought that would be something that I never thought about. Like, wow, this would be cool if I just hand deliver boards to people, make them, and then hand deliver them to people. It's been a really cool, one of the really cool things about this business is meeting people in person. Sterling and Nick, you guys just came through. Kevin's come through. I know Andy, who I just finished a board for, and Russ. Those guys are San Diego guys. They've both come up here and hung out, and we've surfed and stuff. Yeah, I really think those are some of the really cool benefits that I never really had thought of when I started Ronin. I just wanted to make cool boards for people, but the benefit of actually meeting the people that I've made boards for and actually getting to ride waves with them, it's really one of the really cool rewards from doing all this. I just really enjoy it. Yeah, JK, I'll definitely look into that Dawn Patrol app. I'll check it out and see what it's all about. Because, like I said, if I can do it all digitally, I'll definitely be into that versus the analog stuff. Dave, yeah, David did. Just man, I'm kind of pretty much booked up for almost all of December now. I have the boards I'm working on now, and I got 2 big ones and 2 small ones I got to make for my neighbor after this. So. And I'm actually going to be out of town a little bit right around the Christmas holidays. So I'll be gone for at least a week out of the shop. So I'm pretty booked up. I won't really probably be whole. I could maybe take some orders this month, but I probably won't get to them until the very end of the year after I get back from my Christmas holiday with my dad. Going to go down to Arizona and hang out down there with him for maybe a week. So. Yeah, but yeah, if you want to get in line and just get, like I said, that's the way I work. Is I just take board orders, and when I come in, and as soon as the order comes in, we get all the details worked out. I give that board a number, and it goes into the queue, and I build boards in the order of the number. Everything's chronologically built. Just in what's the next number? Build that board. So yeah. If you want to get in the queue and get a number, that's what it's all about. That's how you get into the rotation of me building your board. Is Hey, get a number, and you're in the queue. And when your board number comes up, it's going to get the attention that I give every board. And like I said at the beginning of this, if some people missed, I'm really going to start, even though I'm going to be doing batches of boards, I'm only going to just sand the core, and then I'm just going to just build the single board in a day and a half, depending on how the details are of the board. Instead of doing all 10, it's kind of doing them all through at the same time because they're all different. And it gets a little overwhelming with all the details. I really just enjoy cranking through a board in a day. It feels less stagnant to me. I don't want to say I'm attention deficit disorder, but I really like getting something that's too repetition feels too production to me. So I really want to just give all my attention to just one board, and that way I feel like I'll have fewer mistakes that way too. So it really is it's a better way for me to build boards, at least for right now. That's the way I'm going to do it. I'm just going to be sanding cores and build them one at a time. I'm really enjoying that. Over the last week, that's kind of what I've been doing. Over the last maybe 2 or 3 years, I've been doing like 4 or 5 board batches, up to 10 boards in a batch, and at times it just gets overwhelming. So maybe changed up just a little bit how I do. It's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna slow down too much. I mean, in fact, it almost speeds me up because I get so fired up to try to get through that board in a day. I can just really stay focused on that board. So it's a great way for me to work. Hey, if anybody's got any questions, throw them in, man. I know we got 25 minutes or so to go. So yeah, I'm looking at January to probably maybe get it over to Oahu, and I don't know. I mean, it's either going to be Oahu or Maui. I definitely want to go both islands, and I might just do them both in one trip. I might just island hop and go maybe like 5 days on Oahu and maybe 5 days on Maui, maybe and just island hop. That way, I'm not doing 2 trips all the way across the Pacific Ocean in January and February. So I'm just kind of knock them all out. But what that does is it only gives me 6 boards to get to both islands. And I know there might probably be some people a little disappointed that I'm not just bringing 6 to Oahu and then doing a separate trip to Maui with 6. So but I don't know, I just got to play it out and see what's best for me. And I love being home, man. There's always waves here, even though it's cold. There's always waves here, but I know there's people on both islands that want me to come, and I definitely want to visit both islands. So well I'm going to work it out one way or the other. If I have to make 2 trips, I will. But if I can knock them out in one trip, and that might be another option. But I got I got a couple weeks to kind of sit down and figure it out. I'll probably be towards the end of January when I go. And gosh, we all know that the later you I know from all my trips, I just know that it's almost better to wait till later in the season after a lot of the contests are gone off the North Shore, and a lot of the sand gets sucked out of the North Shore too. It really is kind of almost better to go later in the winter, or almost early spring. I've had some great early spring trips there too. So yeah, looking forward to Hawaii. I sure do miss it. I love it there, and like I said, there's so many. I have so many friends on both islands now. It's awesome. And I know there's people that want to get out and ride waves, and that's what I want to do too. I at least this last trip to Oahu, I didn't get to. I mean, I'm just hung out with Jordan. We surfed darn near every day, but we didn't really get to link up with too many other customers and other people. And I really want to do that a little bit more this time. So yeah, we'll see. If anybody's got any questions, fire away. Sometimes I get to babble, and it sure is helpful to have a topic or change of direction. If anybody's got any questions, fire away. Yeah, I'm pretty stoked on this board, that asymmetrical board I showed earlier. But here's the next one. After I finished that one today, I got into shape the next one after that. It just has the basic core shaped off. It doesn't even have the nose cut or anything in. I got the rails cut, the chine cut, and then you can see also everything's based off the center line too. So the center line, I'll take the center line and I'll wrap it all the way around the board, because everything's based off the center line on the board, all the other dimensions and everything. So it's good to wrap that center line all the way around the core of the board when you're laying stuff out and cutting it. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty simple deck, but 6 channel, 3 to 6 tail. Yeah, pretty cool. For a local guy here around the area, so it's always cool to build some boards for local guys around, and get to see these guys around and surfing in the area. It really feels cool just to all of a sudden you see some guy walking out at the beach. He's got one of your boards. I was like, whoa, shoot, what's he riding? Oh, that's one of my boards. And then you go like, whoa. And then you try to put together, oh, well, who's the customer? If I don't already know him, So I've been riding a little bit lately with Ro. He's a longtime Toobs guy. I don't think I ever built him a board when I was at Toobs, but I know he has so many Toobs boards. But I built him a DK board recently, and I did that quad fin setup on the stand-up board. I did some social media posts on that this past week too. So did a bunch of plug installations on that board because it was a flat bottom board. It was so loose and it had that weird diamond off the tail. So Ro had ridden it a bunch and he was just like, man, this thing is slippy, slidey all over the place. So you think we could put some fins in it? So I put the 2 fins. It was kind of like a 2-fin setup originally, and then he rode it for about 2 weeks. He went out and just tested it with those 2. I put just 4 plugs in, so it had 2 on each side. And then he rode it for a while. And he's like, man, I think I want to put 2 more in there. And so we just took and put a single plug on the inside of that, so it almost has a 4-fin setup on that board now. And he might have ridden it, but he might have ridden it already with the 4-fin. I'm not real sure. But he just came and picked it up a day or so ago. So maybe he's ridden it, maybe he hasn't. I'm not real sure. Oh, yeah, David. If it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't have known about Ronin. It was a ride to Sandy's that I ordered my first board. Yeah, the COVID year was actually a really good year for me as far as board sales goes. It was, I'd been up and running Ronin for maybe what, year or 2 years easily by because it started in 17, and that was about late 19. So I was up running about 2 years. But man, that COVID year was so good because yeah, Nathaniel, you're welcome, buddy. So that COVID year was a really good year for me as far as board sales go. I mean, it would have been the best year that year because I think a lot of people were forced to stay home and they weren't able to travel, and then they're getting all the stimulus checks and stuff too. So it was weird. I think a lot of people, because they couldn't travel and they had a little bit disposable income, they were like, well, shoot, I want to buy a board, or I might get a custom board that I never even considered getting a custom board. Since I can't travel and I'm just going to be staying home, you might as well, instead of spending money on a plane ticket, I might as well buy a cool custom bodyboard. And I really felt it that year. I got really busy. That's almost when and I'm so busy with this that I don't really need to do as much architecture anymore. So I just started saying no to a lot of those projects and just really starting to stay focused on boards. Yeah, so that's another thing is a lot of the shops are closed too. You couldn't go to retail shops. So because I'm a single dude, only person that runs Ronin is just me. So I didn't have a big shop or a big work crew or any of that stuff that would kind of shut my business down. I was able to keep on cranking on boards, and I just got a big right before the lockdown happened. I just got a huge order of material. I got a bunch of bottom slicks. So as far as materials goes, I was completely set up to kind of go all the way through COVID without really having to order anything from overseas. I was still, domestic stuff limped a little bit and all the prices went up, but yeah. It was still just a great year. I luckily positioned myself where I had tons of material and tons of orders. So yeah, that was a great year. I think a lot of people said they just had all this disposable income, and normally they might not buy a custom board because they were just going to ride what they had and they were just going to go on the trip. Now they're like, oh, I'm stuck at home, I might as well buy a board. So that was pretty cool. Definitely, COVID was a good year. For sure. And I haven't really slowed down. I think I'm still at least easily on the same side nowadays as I was in that year. So, the more I do this, the more popular it gets. I can just, I'm still feeling the rise of the popularity and people still discovering me, after I've been doing this for 5 years under my label, and there's still people that have never heard of me. And Ronin, I've never even heard of board brand, or and so there's people, I get it all the time, is people are still just discovering what I do, and that's what's cool, is exciting, is that there's still people out there that can be, open. People can be open-minded to this whole custom bodyboard process and feel like, oh gosh, I have a whole pile full of stock boards, and what else can we do with a board? And, I have some ideas that I might want to explore or something like that. And those are the kind of boards I want to build. I want to build cool things that are unique for the individual. That's what this whole journey's been about. Just making the coolest custom boards that I can people. I think that's really ultimately what this is all about. I personally just love the custom unique boards personally. So you can see how all the boards of my personal boards are pretty non-standard looking boards. After my very first board was the only clip crest board I really have in my personal quiver, besides the Mez board that I showed maybe in the last video. There's only 2 clip crescents in all of my quiver of boards, because I just never felt like that there was anything custom about a clip crescent tail. I mean, it's durable, that's for sure. It's probably one of the, besides maybe a square tail, that's maybe the only other tail that's more durable, that can take impact damage, especially like in shore breaks and stuff. I think that's probably maybe where the only place that clip crescent really makes any sense to me is if you're riding a lot of shore break stuff and you're getting tossed and your board goes up and over the falls and gets drilled into the sand or something. If you have a pointed tail board or something, that tail goes over and hits the sand, you're going to maybe have some impact damage. But once you start getting past the shore break and you're riding like legit waves, I'm not saying that shore break isn't legit. A lot of people love it, but once you get something and you can start riding a shoulder and get down the line and getting some distance, and you need your board to perform, I really think there's so many better tails on boards, depending on the channel setup for clip crescent tail. It's, for me, I see people riding clip crescent tails on a big, powerful waves sometimes, and I see them doing all the side slip stuff that happens. And I know that once you get into, a full crescent tail will perform twice as good as a clip crescent tail, just because that tail exits in the point. And as soon as you sit back on the tail, it doesn't side slip like a clip crescent tail does. So in bigger conditions, when you're going fast and you need your board to hold and not side slip all over, side slip's the enemy. I mean, sure, it's fun. Sometimes you can side slip out of situations, and you see a lip coming over, and you can kind of just do a little side slip and maybe get away from that or something. But the last thing you want your board to do is side slip in a critical situation when you need it to hold and drive. That's like the worst, man, because as soon as you start side slipping, what you have to do is you have to start re-engaging your rail or sit back on the tail to stop the side slip. And that's just a speed killer. As soon as you have to sink your rail in or sit back, it's just you're digging in more you're giving up speed for control. As soon as you lose control, you have to give up speed to regain control. It's better to be able to have the control and just be able to maintain your speed, and then kill your speed. There's things to check your speed once you're an experienced rider. And I've heard people say sometimes that multi-channel boards, one of the crazy things I ever heard was multi-channel boards are too fast. I read that somewhere on social media. And I can't even imagine that thought ever even coming across my mind. I can't imagine a board ever being too fast for any situation, because that just tells me that this person doesn't know how to control their speed. You don't want my board to go as fast as it can, but you got to be able to control your speed. So like if you're going too fast and you're outrunning the wave, and all of a sudden the curl's way back there, the barrel's way back there, you got to know how to stall and knock speed off. Now that just comes from riding experience. You can't. I want my board to go as fast as possible, because that's only going to get you out of hairy situations. I want it to go fast, but then obviously at certain times you want to slow down, and there's ways to do that once you have some experience riding. So that just told me whoever made that comment wasn't a very experienced rider, because they just don't understand how to knock speed off if they're going too fast. There's ways to do little checks, and then obviously just pop the wheelie on the board. That's just pull up on the nose and pop the wheelie, and all of a sudden you're going to be cutting all kinds of speed. So you can sink your knees in, you can push your feet down. There's lots of ways to drag to slow down. And then obviously there's you can do check turns and little check turns to slow down so that the curl can catch up to you. So but I want my board to go fast. I don't want it there's no such thing as too fast. So yeah, the channels are where, and good tail design is where it's at. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are just attached to clip crescent tails, and that's fine, but to me, there's not a whole lot custom about a clip crescent tail. It's built, that tail's built for durability, not performance. I've said that since day one. And as soon as you start experiencing some other tails, depending on the waves you ride, like I said, still I think it might be a good tail for shore pound, but as soon as you get outside of that and you start riding other styles of waves, I would never recommend a clip crescent tail. I would recommend a full crescent tail long before I would ever tell you get a clip crescent tail or a V tail. Like I said, I've showed you, if you've been watching these, I have a lot of V tail boards. I rode them for years before I came up with all the scallop tail designs I'm doing now. So, and I've even kicking around the idea that we'll see. I'm going to maybe make some changes this coming year, because I've made so many clip crescent tail boards in my life, and I just really don't think that there's anything custom about a clip crescent tail. And I think I really want to start almost forcing people to go with a different tail option. Maybe I've kicked around this idea is that I'm just going to stop doing clip crescent tails, because if you want a clip crescent tail board, there's you can go out and there's how many different models and things out there. There's, like I said, the best thing the world needs is another clip crescent tail board with standard channels, in my opinion. Now, I realize there's people out there that's sacrilege me even saying that, but it's not what I'm about. It's not the direction I really want to go. I don't want to say it's a waste of my time to build a clip crescent standard channel boards, but in my opinion, when I know that I can build things that will perform better for people, it just kills me sometimes to build those setups for people. When I know it's only because they're afraid to try something different or outside the box, because you know, that's all I've ever ridden was clip crescent tail. That's what I like. It's what I know. I want to go with that. But being afraid to try something outside the box or a little bit different, you're missing out on so much of riding, and the experience of riding different things is everything. Um, yeah, Nathaniel, well, as far as Pipo stuff goes, well, you know, the tombstones are basically a Pipo shape, you know. And, you know, that there's kind of more pointed nose Pipos, and then you have kind of more rounded nose. A lot of them are V-tails. Sometimes you see some swallowtails on those really cool old wood Pipo boards, the little belly boards that are made out of wood. People don't know. Yeah, so there. So as far as the widest of the tail, like my tombstones have crazy wide tails. They're the widest tail boards I really make. So you can go look at those. It kind of depends on the length of the board versus all the dimensions. So they're all kind of relative. So the thing is, as soon as you start pushing the tail out, you know, and if you don't push the wide point of the board out equally, then you start losing curve in the rail, and that's because the points start being almost parallel to each other, right? Because if the tail width is really close to the wide point, you just don't get a lot of ability to put rail curve in the back half of the board. So it really ends up making for a real straight rail board, then, which is like kind of like a tombstone design. And like I said, I love my tombstone. I rode it earlier this a couple days ago when it's like 2 foot out front, and I was like, I just want to go out and catch some waves real quick. I love my tombstone on small days. It's just a wave catching machine. So the widest tail I can make would probably be, I mean, just like I said, it also depends on the wide point of the board. So if you're really trying to push the wide point of a board, I really don't like making boards wider than about 23 inches because my skins are all 24, and I got to take and I got to have a little bit of overhang on the edges of my boards because my skins are 24-inch wide. And then you got to wrap. Lots of times you have to take that deck skin, you got to wrap it down over the chine. So you really need, if the board's 23 wide, you really need a little bit of extra. If it's 20, you know, their skin's 24, and you have to wrap that over, it really cuts. You're really cutting it close. So okay, once you know if you have 23 on the wide, I probably wouldn't go any wider than probably like 21 and a half or 22 on the tail. You got to have a little bit of pull in on the tail from the wide point. You just don't want a big straight board from the wide point to the tail. So yeah, the Tombstone's a great board. I really love it. And I know you have one, David, and people out there that have one and have ridden it, they can share some of their experiences too. It's a fun board. It's so you can do all kinds of stuff with it. You can prone it, you can DK it. I mean, I'm sure you could probably even stand up on the thing if you wanted to get around and do some stand-up boogie on it because it's such a wide, has so much planing surface on it that it just makes sections when you're leaning forward on that nose. It just feels like you have, because of all the planing area, you can make sections and lean forward on stuff, and it just takes off like a rocket. Yep, I love it, man. It's a great design, and you know, I realize it's one of those boards that maybe looks a little bit outside the box and non-standard, but like I said, I mean, do you need another Mach 7.7 in your quiver, dude? You know, you probably don't. You know, you already have 5 of them, you know, with clip crescent standard channels. Why don't you try something different? That's really what I want to try to do is push people to try something a little bit different, a little bit outside their comfort zone or what they think that, oh man, I'm skeptical about this, but you know, and I think that's what it holds people up is that, you know, I'm not sure if that's going to work or not, but you know, you never know till you try. And you can see how many tombstones I've built, you know, and there's plenty of people out there that haven't can attest that they're just a fun board. You can ride them on big waves or small waves or whatever, really. I know I prefer mine on smaller days, but it's like I ride my regular boards when it gets over, you know, waist high, chest high, anything like they're up, I'm riding a regular board. Just because I think they perform a little bit, my normal boards perform just maybe a little bit better when the waves get good. I want to have a little bit more turning and a little bit more tracking and all that stuff that are into my normal boards. The 3 to 6s and stuff, and channeled rails and all that stuff. I really, really like that when the waves get good. The tombstones are all about fun, you know. You can catch anything, you can make sections you can't. They spin like nobody's business. Because there's so much planing surface on it that they just spin so easy. The spinning board ever. And as far as Nathaniel, you're asking about the thinnest board. I think some of the thinnest boards I've made are for the Beeline girl, Miranda. So her boards are, I want to say they're about 1 7/8, but they're so thin, man. That's the thing, is thin is one thing, but when the thinner you go, that's another thing, is it's harder to keep the boards flat the thinner you go. So that's one of the things you'll fight with going thinner is boards sometimes will start to get a little bit of side to side rocker and a little bit of nose to tail rocker in them, just because of you don't have as much core to kind of help hold everything flat. So I really don't like building boards less than 2 inches. I'll do it in extreme conditions for certain people, but I really don't like going less than 2 inches on a board. Yeah, you're welcome, JK. I enjoy doing these things, and it's cool to see that people are getting into it and watching some of the, even if you can't make it live, just I just want to create cool content for people and try to share some knowledge and create a little community. And I know there's people that are into this thing, and even though I think the best one maybe has like 200 views, which is fine. I'm not doing it for views. I'm doing it to meet people and share ideas and answer questions and trying to be as transparent, as possible to people. I don't think you're going to see too many of the other shapers in the world doing something like this, because maybe they just don't want the transparency of like, oh, this is the person that's actually making your board. Well, I don't mind. I got nothing to hide. I am who I am, and I don't. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, that's I'm not forcing anybody to watch this. So, but I sure do enjoy doing them. So like I said, that the hour passes by. I mean, it's almost done now. Watch the clock right up there, but it's amazing how quick I can talk for an hour. I can't even believe it. I'm not much of a, like I said, I'm such a solitary person because I live at home. I live by myself and I work by myself, and I don't interact with a whole lot of people. So I don't get a chance to even really talk to people a whole lot. So for me to sit down and do something like this and talk for a straight hour, I don't know. Maybe it's good practice for me too, because it's good just to be a better communicator in every way possible. So. And it's cool to connect with people and share where I'm at with certain builds and share the history of my boards. It's been a fun journey. And like I said, I'm not going to stop doing these if I'm around on a Friday night, or like I said, even kicking around maybe shifting it to a Saturday night. Maybe I think it might be a few more people that could make it on a Saturday versus a Friday night, because I know like in Hawaii it's still a little bit early. Some people are maybe just not even off work yet. So if it was on a Saturday, I think then there might be a few more people that might be able to make it live. And I don't mind giving up what's a Friday or Saturday night. To me, it's just another night. It's just another day. Every day is kind of the same to me. I work every day and I play every day. So there's no Monday or Friday or Saturday. Every day is kind of the same for me. I surf every day and I work every day. I try to. if there are waves, I'm going to be surfing. And any other time, I'm usually working on boards these days, or trying to get orders, or talking with people and figuring out details with orders. So that's most of my days these days, is just trying to be productive and having fun, and just minimize the drama around you. Those are kind of my 3 rules: is have fun, minimize the drama, and be productive. That's all I try to ever do in life. If you can just live by those 3 things, I think it's a great way to live. At least I found for me, that's a great way to focus and be driven, is just focus on those 3. Make sure you're having fun and minimize that drama around you. I know we all get sucked into it a lot of times, whether it's family or friends or situations we get put into every single day. Just try to be positive and push through those things and try to avoid as much of the drama as you can. It's unavoidable sometimes and you have to deal with it, but try to minimize it as much as possible. And then after that, just be productive. I'm not good at sitting around and not doing anything. So, and that's maybe why I'm so successful with the things that I've done, is that I'm internally motivated as much as pretty much anybody I've ever met. Like, most people don't have the internal motivation to wake up every day and work. People want to have their day off and sit around and cruise and go hang out at the beach all day and not do really anything. I'm not good at doing that. Don't get me wrong. I love to be at the beach and I love my free time every day, but every day I like to be productive too. So I like to get something done and I like to have fun doing it. So, maybe, what I do and, maybe could inspire somebody else to, get into, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to pursue, just do it. Make sure you're having fun doing it. And if you can if you can share that how much fun you're having doing things with other people, it's almost contagious. I've seen that with all the social media stuff, is that the more I post, the more interactions I get and the more orders I get. So it's good to be productive, and it's good to push stuff out there and create content for people. That's what this is also about too, just creating content, getting on here for an hour and just talking my brains out about boogie board stuff. And I wish I get more questions. Like I said, I love the communication. I love seeing people comment on stuff. So or making comments. It really just keeps the flow going for me on this side of the thing. So like I said, it's just about 7 o'clock. So like I said, maybe I'll get close to wrapping this up. Yeah, David, I really enjoy making Rio's boards as well. He's been on board since the early 100s. I think it's like he was, like I said, the first mule thing that I did to Maui. He was in the batch of boards, and that's how I met Rio. And his first board was a little bit, it was kind of a simple. I want to say it was like a 3-6 or something with the 3 scallop or something. But he loved that board, and then we've been just tweaking boards ever since then. I've made him. He probably has, next to me, he might have the most Ronin boards at this point. Him, Jim Ledbetter, or maybe Kevin Jang. Those all three of those guys have a lot of boards. So more than probably at least five to 10. I mean, I definitely have more than I don't even know how many boards. I probably should count them up sometime. Probably get done with all these. As soon as I get through all the boards up to the board I'm currently riding with all these chats, maybe I will kind of. I want to get down, and I know Nick and I've talked about it, is maybe we're going to get some drone shots of all, like my whole quiver. I think that'd be kind of fun to get some drone shots of all that. Maybe we'll drag a bunch of boards out to the beach or something and get a drone shot of all my boards just out on the beach. That'd be kind of a fun way to document everything. So yeah, we're kicking around some ideas. The next time those guys get back up here from San Diego, they're talking about Sterling and Nick. And Nick has all kinds of camera stuff, so we've been talking about maybe getting some shots done. Maybe it'd be kind of fun to have him maybe even hang out in the shop a little bit too, and maybe film some stuff while I'm working on boards and maybe using some of that video. Yeah. There's Nick. So yeah, Nick, maybe we get even getting some stuff done in the shop, some really cool close-ups of some of the sanding and like the sand. I did a little bit of that stuff when I was at Toobs. There was a guy that came in and did some shot videos and stuff where, because when I'm doing certain steps, I can't really film like close-up angles. I mean, I have my overhead set up that I've done a few videos here, but I just have an overhead, and then I have a little tripod too that I could set up a little bit, but really getting that really close-up follow, while maybe I'm sanding, and we'll get some cool shots. I think we, between the two of us, Nick, we could probably come up with some cool ideas of getting some cool like close-up macro shots or something of some sanding and stuff. I think it'd be really fun to put some kind of little video together. It'd be really fun. But we can talk about that outside of the book chats. We don't have to do it here. But yeah, I look forward to kind of collaborating with you on some videos and pictures, Nick. That'd be kind of fun. You do such a wonderful stuff. You do some wonderful stuff. I've seen all your pictures, and I love all the stuff you do with Sterling. It's awesome, the content you guys generate darn near every single day. You guys ask for nothing and give so much, man. It's so cool. Like I get constantly hit up by people that want something for nothing, like for free. Like will you sponsor me? I'm down on my luck. I need a board. Will you send me 2 boards? All da-da-da. And they've never done anything. They've never bought a board, but they're asking something for free. And then I got you guys that, you guys just love the boards, pay for them every single time, even though, I've helped Sterling out a little bit, because he's been you guys have been created so much cool content for me. I really do appreciate it. So, if I'm going to help anybody, it's going to be guys like you that just give and don't ask for anything. So those are the people I like to help, and, people that, if you've ordered 5 boards and you need a board, I'm going to help you out, It's just one of those things. But if you've never ordered a board and you've never even talked to me, or you've never met, or, you've never done anything for my brand and you ask something for free, probably not. I'm not going to, and I'm not in a position to really do that for people either. I'm a single guy that's just doing all this by himself. So, for me, I'm not in a position to just be giving boards away for free. I need to make money on every single board I make just to keep the wheels on this bus. Otherwise, going negative is not really why I'm in business. I gotta make profit on things, and I take all that profit usually after getting all my bills paid, and I dump it right back into my business, whether it's, getting screen printing and merch done, or just buying more materials. It's an endless cycle of money in, money out, you know, and I don't think lots of people realize is how much money that I dump into this business. It's crazy, but I love it. I'm not going to stop doing it. I'm going to keep on cranking away on stuff. So, well, I guess that's about enough rambling for this week. Like I said, I really appreciate everybody coming out and the comments and everything. So, yeah, I'm going to keep on doing this, and I really appreciate everybody for showing up and all the comments and questions and whatnot. Like I said, if anybody's got any final thoughts or questions, now's the time. So I'm going to wrap this up. And if not, if you think of something else, you can always message me or comment down below, you know, and I'll definitely answer questions, even if you're watching the replay. Just hit me up through Instagram or Facebook, or you know, or you can email me through runninbodyboards@gmail.com, or through the web. There's contact stuff on you know, here or the website, wherever you can. It's not hard to find me and communicate. Really do. Instagram messaging is really where I do most of the work, though, in the communication. It really is seamless there. I really enjoy it. So anyway, hit me up there if you guys want it. Thanks for showing up, everybody, and I guess I'll sign off. Thanks a lot for coming out. Ciao for now. Appreciate it.